Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Buckets and Birdies podcast.
Buckets and Birdies is a weekly glimpse into the worlds of basketball and golf,
We'll also balance national sports trends with ACC insights.
and provide a lens of notable happenings of sports in our home state of North Carolina.
Two friends and industry professionals getting together to bring you 23 minutes of fun each week with shared experiences around buckets
And birdies.
He's Carter Bills, sports agent and seasoned consultant in the golf space.
Joining me on the mic is national champion, Tar Heel great, Marcus Ginyard.
Welcome to Buckets and Birdies. Welcome to another episode of the Buckets and Birdies podcast.
It's Thursday, June the 4th. Hard to believe it's June already, Marcus.
It is hard to believe, and it sucks that we haven't been together for the last couple of weeks, but happy to be together with you again, Carter. We got a lot to dive into today.
Good to be with you too, and thanks to everybody who's listening of 23 minutes of our thoughts for you.
And remember, everyone, when you're hearing this, it'll be Friday at high noon.
And as positive people who like positive things, we'll start off, Marcus, as we do every episode, with our quote of the day. And today's quote is, "You are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream." Les Brown.
I love that. Always trying to get better, always trying to get 1% better, I think, than the day before. And no better time to be thinking about big goals and big dreams. We got major playoff action happening across the country. We've got baseball here in Chapel Hill. We've
Yeah,
got hockey. We've got basketball. I mean, we got a lot of folks out there trying to reach the biggest goals and their biggest dreams.
that's it. And my favorite part of the quote, Marcus, is "You're never too old." We celebrated some big birthdays recently. You're a May birthday. Pablo's a May birthday. He celebrated the big 4-0. I turned 41 on Saturday, so that's coming in hot. You've got one more year until you join us in the 40s, so enjoy it, my man.
I'm going to continue to enjoy the 30s club as long as I possibly can, my friend. But looking forward to celebrating you soon, man.
That's it. And you're right. Lots of sports going on beyond just buckets and birdies. Like you said, the Tar Heels are advancing on the baseball diamond. They're playing well. And hockey, man, North Carolina is hopping right now with hockey. The Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Finals. Have you been able to check it out, Marcus? I know we haven't got to catch up much on it yet. What have you seen on the ice?
Yeah, man, got to watch game one. An exciting time for everybody around the state, but especially here in the Triangle, obviously having them right down the road in Raleigh. Got together with some friends. Beautiful weather here in North Carolina. Sat outside, watched the game with a nice little cigar and a glass of wine. And what an incredible game one that was. Hosting Vegas here in Raleigh. Started off amazing. The first 25 seconds, we're scoring a goal. Everybody's going
Yes.
nuts. Couldn't imagine what it was like in the Lenovo Center. We were certainly fired up watching the game with the friend group, but not a disappointment in any for any stretch as we think about what kind of game you want to see in the Stanley Cup Finals. Obviously, we wish we could have won that game, but an incredibly entertaining game. Like I said, scoring in the first 25 seconds, going up 2 goals, watching Vegas battle back. I mean, obviously, it was a heartbreaker, but some great action in that first finals game.
It was a great first Stanley Cup Finals game. You've been in the Lenovo Center. I've been in the Lenovo Center. That place is rocking. We really get behind it here in the area for our hockey team, which is fun. There's been a lot of momentum. And you said it, Marcus, the first 25 seconds, that arena sounded like it was about to explode. And then we score a goal, and the place just went bananas. What an awesome way to start the Stanley Cup Finals. Ehlers breaks away, gets the goal, and it looks like we're really going to run away because he scores another one in the first period. We go up 2-0, and I think just a minute later, Las Vegas scores a goal to go to 2-1, and then, we kind of go a long stretch without scoring, and Vegas comes back. It's a back-and-forth game, and like you said, unfortunately, the Canes dropped the first one 5-4, but my takeaway is people don't always look at North Carolina as a hockey state, and I don't know that we're a hockey state, but I'll be darned if we don't have some passionate Hurricanes hockey fans. And I love that. I think it might come from our basketball fandom here on Tobacco Road, Marcus.
I don't know where it comes from. I can tell you that when North Carolina State is playing a basketball game, it certainly doesn't feel like that. But we have some crazy hockey fans, and I've always appreciated the opportunity to go watch hockey at the Lenovo Center, especially when you start talking about playoff hockey. But it's interesting, Carter. A friend of mine was telling me recently that some of his kids are playing hockey, and that when
Wow.
they go to hockey tournaments over the weekends and things like that in the area, that these hockey facilities are busting at the seams, that there's a ton
Yeah.
of young kids playing hockey right now. So it's not a world that I'm very familiar with in terms of youth hockey, but I certainly know once you get to the NHL and you start talking about the Hurricanes, there is a buzz and an energy around our hockey team that I did not expect. But I'm certainly glad that we have it here, and look forward to continuing to support the Hurricanes, and hopefully, we get to the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, we'll be the one holding that trophy.
No doubt. And speaking about the roots of the fandom, I don't know if you guys caught at the beginning when the Stanley Cup Finals was coming on. Ryan McGee, I think who you know from ESPN, did a nice piece. Ryan and I serve on the National Sports Media Association board together. He's just a phenomenal guy with great roots in North Carolina and is just speaking to the passionate hockey fan base, really probably rooting back to the basketball fan base. He was speaking to the NC State fans, speaking about the Duke fans, of course, the North Carolina fans, and even Wake Forest. He's like, you have these passionate fans here who have really gotten behind this hockey team. And it was pretty cool. You go back to the team's origins when it first came to North Carolina. Pretty soon after, goes to the Stanley Cup in 2006, I think. Been a couple times more. We're back now. And he was just saying, expect a rocking arena. And I know something cool that you and Pablo and I all watched recently and commented on was the sound of the Lenovo Center without the announcers. Just listening to the first 25, 30 seconds of the finals, kick off, for lack of a better term. We should say the finals face off, right? Once the finals
There you go.
faced off, the first 25 seconds, man, hearing the center just come alive, and then hearing that goal score, man, that was some passion that erupted, and I loved it.
Man, got the chills watching that video. I would have preferred to watch the game, not listen to the announcers as well, if that's the experience that you were going to have. But you're right, and Ryan McGee's right. The fans here, they want to win. They're very passionate, and I think that's what makes great fans, no matter what sport you're talking about. It's just passion and really that desire to win.
No doubt. And that's not the only finals going on, Marcus. We are now one game into the NBA finals. So it's great to talk to you here this week that we've got a game of the Stanley Cup finals under our belt. We now have a game of the NBA finals under our belt. Again, takes us right into buckets. Were you able to catch the game last night? What did you see?
I was actually, speaking of all the fans here in Tobacco Road, spent the evening in Durham yesterday watching this game, and it was really interesting to see kind of all the Spurs fans and all the Knicks fans coming together to watch the game. It created a
Mm.
pretty electric atmosphere in downtown Durham, but you know, again, did not disappoint when you think about, a playoff game, let alone a finals game, right? You had that energy. You've got the best players out there on the court. You got two great teams facing off, and I think it delivered. Game one delivered. Hats off to the Knicks for battling back throughout that whole game and finding a way to steal one on the road. But before the game, you're thinking about, do the Spurs, have the energy to keep pushing through. They just finished, battling out with the Thunder, and then you got the Knicks on the other side who've been waiting, who haven't been in the finals in a very long time. What's that emotion kind of feel like, and what's it like for them to have that time off to try to get back into the swing of things? But I think that both teams came ready to play, and again, it did not disappoint. Some great action out there with Brunson and Cat and Wimby, and I mean, just everybody delivered, everybody performed. A fun game to watch, but going to be exciting to see how the Spurs respond back in San Antonio for game two. But again, hats off to the Knicks for a great showing in game one and still one on the road.
No doubt it did start off well. Who are you going for? Are you leaning one way or the other?
I don't know which way to go, man. There's so many Carolina folks, Carolina family that have gone through the Spurs organization, currently on the
Yeah.
Spurs. So you got that part tugging at you, but then not that this is a huge deal, but I was born in the state of New York. Okay, I was born in upstate New York. That doesn't inherently make me a Knicks fan, but I did have the opportunity to play for the organization when I played for the Westchester Knicks. It's
Yeah.
funny because Pablo and I just had an opportunity to play some golf a couple of days ago and play with one of my former teammates, also a guy from Chapel Hill, Ben Strong. And we played
Nice.
together in New York for the Westchester Knicks. And so played on their G League team in their inaugural season back in 2014-15. So I do have a bit of
Yeah.
a real connection there to the Knicks organization. So I do want to see them succeed as well. But I had some folks reach out to me and they said, man, I can't cheer for any team that's got members of the 2016 Villanova Wildcats on it. And so, you get that part of it too, right? And so at the end of the day, Carter, I just want to see some great basketball. I want to see the drama. I want to see the competitiveness. And again, game one delivered that for us. And so no real dog in the fight here. Just want to see some great basketball.
That's kind of where I'm at, Marcus. I want to see great basketball. I don't dislike either of them. In fact, I pretty much like both franchises. Like you said, a lot of Carolina ties from the Spurs. I think about you and your time with the Knicks organization. Sort of nostalgic from the 1999 NBA Finals, right? With Tim Duncan being a young guy on the Spurs and Patrick Ewing and those Knicks teams finally getting over the hump in the East when Michael Jordan retired from the Bulls for the last time. I don't know. I'm feeling the nostalgia feels. I like the Spurs and the Knicks matchup, and I want to see 7 games of NBA Finals.
I mean, I think that we're on track to see that. I can't imagine that San Antonio is going to come out in game two and let the Knicks walk away with one. Not that they did let the Knicks walk away with one. They definitely earned it. But I think they're going to come back and really make a statement in game two and tie things up. And I think we're going to be neck and neck throughout this whole deal. You start getting into some conspiracy talk here, but at the end of the day, I think it's in everyone's interest for there to be a game seven. So we'll leave it there, but I think that we will get that. We deserve it. I think both of these teams deserve it, and it'd be really cool to see this thing go down to the wire.
It would be. Like you said, game one was a good one. It started out interestingly, Marcus. I thought, okay, San Antonio might have the edge with the home court advantage in game one. That crowd was live. The Knicks get out to a great start, 14-7. Brunson gets a little tweaked, has to go back in the locker room. The Spurs kind of retake control, but in the end, Brunson comes back. The Knicks, end up handling business and stealing one, so to say, on the road in game one. A lot of great players played well. The stars were stars, like you said. Cat played well. I think Wemby is probably going to want more of himself for the Spurs, to be expected. I've got sort of an unsung hero of the game. This is probably not going to be a surprise, but we haven't done this in a while, so I'll give you which bucket getter am I. I'm going to give you a stat line. You tell me who this was for the game, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So this player in the NBA Finals, game one, had 3 points, 15 rebounds,
Josh
6
Hart.
assists, 4 steals, and a block. Josh Hart,
Yeah,
you nailed it.
Josh Hart. It's interesting, Carter. I've been thinking about Josh for a couple of different reasons. One, he's getting a lot of press right now for his love of wine, which is not new. He's gotten some attention for that in the past, but obviously, as you get to these stages later on in the season, and you're the only team and the only folks that are up on stage, more people are paying attention. But obviously, being a big wine fan, have followed his wine journey a bunch. Um,
He's known to bring a glass to a press conference, post game presser, right?
and it's funny, man. I was doing that back when I was playing in France. A glass of champagne to the post game, but
It sounds right.
back before it was cool. But no, it's a one thinking about him for that reason, and then two, thinking about the times that we played together in the summers back in DC. But Carter, that's a stat line that should be on the front page of every sports newspaper. A guy that really, and Jalen Brunson talked about this in the post game interview, a guy that would just do whatever it takes for his team to win. And you got to give a ton of credit to a player like that who's got what looks to be a broken finger, who gets banged around all game, who may not be, the most prolific offensive player, but someone who just makes a difference out there on the court. And for anybody, any size, any skill level, to be out there in the finals grabbing 15 rebounds, let alone the steals and the assists. I mean, you just got to give a ton of credit to a player like that, and certainly appreciate that effort. Just as an athlete and as someone who enjoys the game. Again, this isn't about which team you like, but a player like that has got to get his flowers. So hats off to Josh Hart for all the things that he's done in that last game, but just in his career to be a great team player and to help his team win.
I had a feeling like you would get that one, knowing your appreciation for all the intangibles of the game, because even beyond the 15 rebounds, the 6 assists and 4 steals, the great things he did, besides just having 3 points, he had such a tremendous impact on that game. It's a stat line that is sort of reminiscent of a Dennis Rodman stat line, right? Somebody who comes in, from a different position, Josh Hart, but comes in and really makes an impact on winning, puts his thumbprint on championship basketball, And I think you need players like that on your team to win. You know that better than any. I think you got to have a guy who's willing to dive at a ball when everybody else might be turning the other way. He turns towards the basketball, and man, that's got to be a coach's dream out there at that level.
Well, there's no doubt that he is not going to be a guy watching. He will definitely be on the floor on those loose balls. And so, when you think about a player like that being necessary to win the championship, I got to ask, who do you have winning the championship? We talked about it going to game 7 potentially. Well, who's your pick? We need to know now so that at the end of this, we can look back and say who was right and who was wrong. Who are you picking
Man,
to win the finals?
it's hard because I asked you the question, who do you like? And I'm like you, I don't have any hate for either team. Outside of my Tar Heels, I grew up really liking Tim Duncan and Winston-Salem. So I liked the Spurs as a kid. I like that Harrison Barnes is on the Spurs now. I'm not rooting against the Spurs, Marcus. I just got a feeling like this Knicks team has a bit of destiny on its side, getting over the hump. I'm going to take the Knicks in 7. I think they just stole home court advantage back in game 1, and I'm going to take the Knicks in 7.
Carter, I'm very similar to you. I like both of these teams. But if I have to answer the question, who am I taking? I'm also going to take the Knicks. And I'm going to one up you here. And as much as I'd love to see a game 7, and I do think it's going to get there, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say Knicks in 6.
Okay. Okay. We both have the advantage of seeing they took game 1, but
Fair.
Knicks and 6 has got a ring to it. I feel like some t-shirts are going to be passed out all over Manhattan. Knicks
I
and
think they
6. I
might
feel like
already be on the truck, my friend.
that's
Knicks
right.
in 6.
That's right.
All right, Carter, as we think about transitioning from buckets to birdies, our favorite game, Nets and Jackets, where I will give you a year and you will tell me the U.S. Open champion and the NBA champion of that year. Today, your
All
year
right.
is 1988.
Woo.
Make you work for this one.
1988. You are making me work. All right. I'm going NBA first, Marcus.
Okay,
I'm in the middle of the 80s in my head. I got Pat Riley in the three-peat with the Los Angeles Lakers, 88, right?
correct. Very good.
All
Solid
right.
start.
Yep. And then I think that was the third of the three-peat because then the bad boys went 89, 90. But then we got to go. I'm going to have to take a bit of a shot in the dark on the U.S. Open in 88. Masters, I've got down pretty well, as you know. I need to buff up on my U.S. Open. Let's go 1988, Hale Irwin.
All right.
I think Hale was
We can
90. So,
we can educate you today, Carter. It was
okay.
Curtis Strange
Curtis Strange. Oh, no.
who
I know
defeats
Curtis. Great
who
guy.
defeats Nick Faldo in an 18-hole playoff
That's right.
to
That
capture his
recently changed.
first major
Yeah.
championship.
Yeah, that was his first. Okay. That was his first. Curtis Strange, wow, spends a lot of time in Pinehurst. He's got a twin brother that lives down there. When I first met his twin brother, I thought it was Curtis and ended up getting to know David well because I talked to him for forever thinking it was Curtis. But
That's
um,
awesome.
David Strange, great guy. But wow, shout out to Curtis. Nick Faldo, you picked a great year. That was a good one. And like I mentioned, they recently changed. It might be 5 years ago or so, Marcus, where they now, I believe, have a 3-hole aggregate playoff. A lot to do with television, a lot to do with these players' time. In the old rules of the U.S. Open, you used to have to go to bed, the sun sets, you wake up the next day and you play another 18 holes. Tiger Woods famously did it in 2008 when he had the ripped up knee and pretty much hobbled on one leg to beat Rocco Mediate in a U.S. Open playoff that was 18 holes. So that's changed, but that was a unique part of that major championships history and a special part of the game.
Well, Carter, as you're already starting to get going, telling us the history of golf, let us know what we've been missing for the last couple of weeks and what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, Marcus. So the PGA Tour was on its back-to-back tournament events in the DFW area in Texas. So first they were in Dallas and they played the CJ Cup, which is the title now, the Byron Nelson there in Dallas. Wyndham Clark won. So great to see Wyndham get back in the winner's circle. Puts him in the signature events. He was on the outside looking in from that after winning the U.S. Open just a couple short years ago, propelling himself into a top 10 player. It's hard to stay at the top 10, right? As proven, everybody's not Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy. So it's tough to stay in that mix with those two out front leading the way. But Wyndham's a very, very talented player, very committed, and great to see him win and get back in the mix. He's going to be a threat every week now. Golf's a momentum sport. When you get hot, you get confident. Just like anything, Marcus, you see some putts roll in, you believe you can do anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't see a lot of putts roll in, but when I do, I also believe I can do anything. I am then quickly reminded that I can't, but guys like Wyndham Clark can certainly do a lot more than me, and excited that he's got another win. Feel very fortunate to have seen him play a handful of times. And he's an easy guy to like. Saw him win down in Charlotte a couple of years ago, so congrats to Wyndham. Hopefully, he can keep that momentum going.
That's it. But hey, when you do see one roll in, you walk to that next tee a little differently, right?
You sure do.
Feel a
You
little
sure
better?
do.
That's right. Well, then, Marcus, right after Dallas, they went to Colonial and Fort Worth, and Russell Henley put on the plaid jacket at Colonial as he won. And man, Russell Henley, top 5 player in the world, one of the tour's all-time great guys, understated guys. This guy's been top 10, Marcus, for really the last 3 or 4 years in a row. He's been top 25, certainly top 50 pretty much his entire career since he's been a mainstay card holder on the PGA Tour. And this guy's not just a mainstay card holder. Again, 3 years or more in the top 10, really the better part of the last 2 years in the top 5. And I saw something funny online recently. It said Russell Henley's made north of $50 million on the course on the PGA Tour. And he may be the only, professional athlete at that level that can walk in the grocery store and nobody knows who he is. So I say that in a positive way. I think it just speaks to how understated he is. Again, you won't meet much of a better or nicer guy than Russell Henley. So congrats to Russ on the win.
Well, if he can keep this thing going and find a way to win the U.S. Open here in a couple of weeks, when is the U.S. Open?
So we're coming. So that Texas takes us to the Memorial. So we're in Ohio this week, Jack Nicklaus's tournament, a signature event. We then go into the U.S. Open. But I love this stretch. A lot of good golf, a lot of meaningful golf, a lot of big FedEx Cup points at stake. And a lot of special stuff happens in this stretch. Think about all the cool moments and great champions from the Memorial, from the U.S. Open, from Travelers. And here we are in the middle of that. We get those 3 in a row. I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, man. Well, Henley might not be recognizable in the grocery store right now, but like I said, if you can keep that momentum going and find a way to win the U.S. Open here in a couple of weeks and make some more splashes on the tour as the season, comes to an end here, I think more people are going to know that face.
Yeah. And one of the great things about Russ, too, he always props up his family. Russell's wife, Teal Duncan, Teal Henley now, but Teal Duncan, she was known as an artist, Marcus. I know you like your art, so I don't know if you know this. She might be more famous than he is. Teal does amazing landscapes and abstract art, lot in her history of kind of Charleston-esque scenes. And my wife's an interior designer, and so she loves her art and loves putting it in homes in the right places. And just an outstanding artist. Teal Duncan, I'll send you something, but you should check it out. She's fantastic.
Well, we've got space right here. So,
Hey, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Teal, we need some art. All right, guys, that's all for today.
thanks for joining us for another episode of the Buckets and Birdies podcast.
That's 23 minutes of our thoughts for you. For Marcus Ginyard, I'm Carter Bills.
We'll catch you next time.